Almost there. Oh, here we are.
Morning, everybody. You all hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, good.
Oh, I think we're duplicated. You mind muting me? Or muting the YouTube? Something's repeating.
Oh, yeah, you see me in the background. Oh, sounds like 11. Think about that.
All right, good to go?
Yep.
All right, we are the Finance Committee meeting. It is October 17th and it's 9:02 and I'll call this meeting to order. We have all of our trustees are present, so excellent. We'll start with the beginning then. So sales tax. Just wanted to go over sales tax with you real quick. I typically don't include the 1% sales tax. I only include what we get from the county, but I want to start including both of them so you guys get a full picture. Because if you were to look at our budget and say, well, why are we $300,000 less than what we budgeted for in 2021? It's because we collect 1% directly from the state and then the other comes from the county and they're reported at different times too. So we get one 2 months in the rear and one month in the rear. So it's kind of hard to put these together and I'm going to work on that when I have some time to do that, but wanted to present both of those to you. So if we just want to look at like our sales tax chart, the larger of the two, not the 1%, but the other one, you can see we're not down, we're actually up 0.25% from last year. So last year was 192,817 and we are up 193,304.
I thought year to date we're up 2%.
Yes, year to date, we're up 2%, but just, sorry, just for that particular month.
Gotcha. Yep, I'm with you. 0.25%. Yep.
Any questions on the sales tax?
I think there was one column that was off. Let me find it again. And I started adding it to a spreadsheet that compared 2019, since that's what we keep saying is our comparison year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's helpful. And that's what I present to the chamber on Wednesdays or on our meeting on Wednesdays. So year to date, we're up 30% from 2019. But there was one column, I think let me see. The year to date percentage change, I think was off in one of our columns. Let me look.
Is that from the larger of the two?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me find it in the packet.
I
think it was just the year to date percentage change.
Okay.
It seemed like it wasn't adding up quite right.
I can look into that. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Next, we have on our agenda the fee schedule update. So Matt has been working on the fee schedule. And one thing I want to preface with the fee schedule is when I looked at our fee schedule that have been previously adopted, there were no codes or statutes on why we have those established fees. So as we look at those, Matt has color coordinated everything to show you all. But basically making sure that each one of our fees has an associated policy with it. And right now we have color coded here that, if it's in orange, it needs a supporting policy document. So Matt and Melina went through all of our fees and looked up where we've established those fees before. And at some point, we're probably going to have to do kind of a mass policy adoption for some of these fees. So Matt, I'll let you take it away.
Sure, so, just explain the, color coding for anybody who is, viewing live and they don't have good enough, signal to see everything. The green is gonna be, no change to the fee schedule, and the policy is based outside of the fee schedule, so it's a separate resolution from our fee schedule resolution. The teal one is going to be, there's no change to this fee in the fee schedule, and this fee is established in the fee schedule, so if we want to change that, it's part of our fee schedule resolution we adopt. The purple is that we are establishing this fee this year. Yellow means that there's changes made to the fee. Orange means there needs to be supporting policy created, like a resolution adopted for it. And the red is for fees that we are removing. Let me reduce the size here because it's template top is a lot. So let me pull it up on my screen too. It's kind of hard to see from that angle. So across the first page on your packet, it's mostly going to be business licenses. All of that is going to be staying the same, except for establishing a late fee and a late schedule. Our code cites that there is supposed to be a late fee, but we haven't had one established. So we're establishing that in line with code 6190 D3E. The temporary banner permits, we're removing that fee because per our code, the permit is a non-fee permit. It's just an application. And this banner permit is for people putting banners like on their building. So if you want to have a banner for welcome motorcyclists and put that out, you have a banner for that.
Gotcha. You just get a permit for it. You don't have to pay for that.
Correct.
But then we do charge for staff time to hang an event banner.
Yeah, the event banner is a separate fee from this.
Yep. Thank you.
And they've only got that as a permit good for 14 days. So it's pretty much goes in line with a special event mostly.
Yeah.
Or if it's just like Sturgis. And document charges, I wasn't able to find any policy or code for that. So it's probably good to say just as a fee schedule thing, but I just haven't found any supporting documentation for that. It's really minor charge, so probably didn't make it in the statute. Lodging fees are staying the same. Removing the OHV trailer parking permits because we don't have any OHV trailer parking within town limits now. And then down on the bottom of your page is where it starts out with the liquor license fees. A lot of these were changed. So on. Yeah. And so liquor license fees are getting changed a little bit. It's after our training with the liquor code enforcement officer. We figured out that there's a fee of the application and the fee that is based on what sort of liquor license you're obtaining. So all application fees are that, I think it's the $250 local license application fee. And on top of that, per statutes, we're supposed to charge the extra, like if it's a hotel and restaurant fee, if it's a brew pub fee. So that's an extra up to $75 at the most. Oftentimes it's either $75 or $25.
So this will be a new fee for businesses that will be new to them.
It's going to be a fee that we're newly charging, but by statute, you should have been charging this the entire time.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. And again, just so I clarify, because again, I might get questions at the chamber meeting. So there's the application fee and then there's an additional fee based on type of liquor or type of facility.
Type of facility.
Okay. And this is per state statutes.
Yep, and that document is DR 8500.
And we just haven't been charging this.
Just haven't been charging it.
Way to go.
So that'll bring our licensing revenues up quite a bit next year. And then
Can I ask a quick question about the cigarette sales? I know Amy at Public Health, she was talking about those fees. Did she ever talk to you guys or give a presentation about cigarette sales and like business?
We're still working on that.
Okay.
So she's actually put that on pause for a second.
Okay.
We've done 2 presentations to the P&O committee for a tobacco licensing fee basically that would go back into enforcement.
Mhm.
And then, so doing an ordinance for that, and then also changing our current municipal code to go from 18 to 21.
For age.
Yeah, for age. So, those two, actually, we've been working with her for almost a year now.
Yeah, okay.
So, yep,
Gotcha. Yeah,
fully in the loop on that one.
great. Thank you.
And you guys, before we move on, I just wanted to, before we get to the end of this, can we look back at the lodging tax? That's $2, not 2%.
Sorry, what was that?
On the lodging tax per bed, per person per night, it's $2, not 2%.
Is it supposed to be 2%?
I don't know, but it just,
So yeah, it's not the tax, it's just the fee that we collect.
oh,
So-
just the fee,
yeah.
copy.
So
Okay,
totally
okay,
different than the
that's just the
tax.
fee. Yep, thank you, thank you.
If those are remaining the same.
Perfect.
And so, yeah, the cigarette sales tax, I'm just leaving that as it is until we get that policy from the health departments to
Mhm.
be considered.
Thank you.
And then in the purple here, these are more fees we were not charging that's needed to be included in the fee schedule. This is for when liquor license renewal applications are turned in late. They're considered non-timely and get the late fee if they're within 45 days of their expiration dates, whatever. That's the issue fee. So if it's expired by the time of submission, there is a $500 fee in addition to the town, in addition to the state. If it's within 45 days of the expiration dates, there is a fee to the state.
And again, this is all prescribed. The town is not just making this up. This
Yeah,
is all
this is all-
prescribed by Colorado statute.
So if you see that statutory local authority line, that's kind of new to this fee schedule, and something that typically municipalities have in their fee schedules is a justification of all the fees.
How will this be communicated to the businesses?
I guess you need to push out a mailer. This is something that's, you know, honestly gonna kind of weird to explain because it's gonna be like, well, you should have been paying this, but you
Yeah.
haven't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
See, I guess we're going to have to do a mailer to every liquor license establishment just to inform them of such.
Yeah, and it would take an effect, again, sitting at the chamber meeting, I'm sure I'll get questions at some point. What's the timing typically for, like, are renewals on a certain, everybody does it on a certain cycle, or it's based on the business?
Based on the business for liquor licenses.
Okay.
Our business licenses are January 1st for year-round businesses, and I think it's May 1st for summer businesses.
And Dana, anytime you can't answer their questions, just refer them to Matt, because
Great.
he'll be able to.
Great, I won't make it up, Matt, don't worry, I won't make it up.
All right, and so then we've got our retail marijuana fees. Those are all prescribed by statute, so they're all staying the same because the statute didn't change. Special event fees. So special event fees, they are mostly going to be changing or staying the same, sorry. And the one that is going to be different from before is the film permitting is going to be handled by the Silverton Film Office. We still got to work out the nuts and bolts of that situation.
So yeah, we're going to be doing a memorandum of understanding with the film office to help facilitate the film permits.
And then going down to facility rentals, we did not previously have a discount for non-local nonprofits. We only had a discount for local nonprofits. So we're establishing a 25% rental discount for non-local nonprofits for the Kindle and Columbine facilities.
I also loved seeing that for community use, we already have a resolution for community members to use Kendall on non-peak days. So there we go, Gloria. We already have it in place. It's great. So do we have a process?
And that's what we're working on. Yep.
Well, we already have the resolution, so it's available. That's great.
This took a lot of research hours. I just want to commend
my gosh.
Matt and Melina for the last 2 months, 3 months. I think I've signed this
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I see a fee, but I want to see why. So it was quite the digging process.
So yeah, this has got orange, but I found the reason why we got that fee.
Yes. Yeah.
The next alteration to facility rentals is the town hall assembly rooms. We've pretty much been only renting it out to quasi-governmental entities. And so we're just kind of got to codify that.
Or we can rent the ball field, but the ball field does not currently operate. You can land a helicopter there. That was new.
So we are also removing the option to just rent out all of Kendall for a day for the ski area. So
Like that was in place to rent the lift, like you get the whole mountain.
yeah,
Yeah, some folks had done like weddings there and such, and they would ride the lift up.
Oh, that's charming.
but we're
Charming until the lift breaks and you have to go and evac the entire
I
wedding
did.
party.
Oh, I heard this story. Yes, Tyler, we heard this story. Yeah.
And then going down to page, we also added a damage fee for the white Chivalry chairs. So if somebody damages them, then they get to replace them. Going down, we got the public works stuff. So all of the fees for the public works equipment rentals, I have not been able to find supporting policy for. So I need to see if that's in statute or if we can establish the fee policy as we will. Like, I haven't found anything in the statute, so I think it's just a local fee policy thing. Just establish a resolution for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the main change on those are all those hourly rates are being increased 10% to reflect increase in fuel prices, inflation, compensation adjustments for the public works personnel.
Mm-hmm. Does our insurance cover these operators while they're being rented out to folks?
So the only, as far as I am aware, I'm pretty sure it's it says only rented with operators.
Yeah.
You actually gotta, rent the time of one of our public works personnel.
Right.
I think as
Yeah, great.
as a
Yeah. So it's a town function and our insurance would be covered.
town equipment, town personnel, all that function.
Is this, we used to rent the lift out without an operator, didn't we? So this is kind of a change.
The man lift.
The man lift.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so this will.
Well, and I know it's been rented out like by contractors or people to do like simple one-time jobs. And I think it was available to rent out without an operator.
I feel like I've heard people doing painting projects.
Yeah.
Jim, you have context?
Yeah, I was gonna agree with Tyler that it used to be rented out without an operator. As long as the Public Works Department provided a safety briefing along with harnesses and whatnot, that you could rent it out, and I think it was $90 an hour or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So this is a change.
I have been,
We'll have to double check with John on that one.
Well, and I mean, I'm just kind of flagging in my mind what things are different for people if we get comments.
I was a little bit more focused on the numbers, so that detail passed by me.
Yeah.
We also have added our
That would go to
water fee.
So I had a question on the raw water. In 2021, we say the fee is 0.39 cents per gallon, and then now we're saying it's 0.15 or 15 cents.
I don't think it was 0.39
Okay,
cents.
we didn't have one, right?
Right. We didn't have a fee then. I'm not sure where that came from.
Okay.
But we just established a fee this year for it.
But we lowered the fee? I mean, I
No,
know that we did
I
that
don't know
when
where
we-
that point, do you know where that 0.39 came from? Because we didn't have a fee, we didn't have a policy or anything for our raw water and we just established it that year. So,
That's odd, because I added that row in there, so that might have just been a weird artifact.
okay,
Yeah,
then you have to remove that.
And so our water tap fees, the code says that the fee needs to be established along with our EQR resolution. And so we have that on the back burner to be presented probably next month. And so along with that EQR resolution, we'll have this fee established in there. It's staying the same, it just needs a policy to go with it. And then most of the building and zoning stuff is staying the same, just need to find a few more policy documents for certain application fees. I think it pretty much falls under use subject to review in those other districts, but we just want to be a little bit more detailed with our fee schedule.
yeah,
Since we're trying to make different forms from just this use subject review form, we want to have forms and have the specific fees listed for those forms.
yeah. I had a comment on this section. I kind of asked a couple folks who had recently done projects in town, just saying, hey, what was your experience with the fee schedule, with the process? Was it clear? Did you, what were your thoughts on kind of this whole experience? And overall, the feedback was like that the rates felt fair, reasonable. One comment was that we don't really have any distinction on sort of like scope of work, right? Like someone was getting charged the same fee just to do minor changes to their building versus like putting in 20 condos, that there's not kind of this differentiation for folks. And so I don't know if that's something we just want to think about or think about in the planning department, but if it makes sense to differentiate kind of based on scope.
Well, and we're actually coming up with a new kind of way to charge
Okay.
for our planning so that we can kind of recover some of our fees, like our time basically on an application if it's going too long or if we're having to pass it on to our engineers, if we're having to pass it on to legal.
Yeah.
And like do those as pass-through fees so that the applicant would actually be paying for that. Right now, they're not as much like. So that's something we're looking at internally on how to create a better process for that.
Yeah.
So this is kind of, let's adopt this to move forward and
Yeah.
then amend later,
Yeah.
basically.
That sounds good. Well, that was the feedback I got. And it sounds like from what you're saying, if someone's doing a basic remodel in a historic district that needs some review, that's going to take less time than someone that's putting in like
Right. And so that's
development.
That's what we're working on with Katie and TJ with CPS and Lucy's kind of tagging it right now and doing some research to feel out, what is our time spent on a typical application? And then what do we need to recover that cost?
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Sounds like it's on your radar.
Yeah.
And then next major change is in these building permits and excavation permits. Pricing is staying the same, except that we're adding the excavation permit fee to have the same breakdown as the building permit fee. And that was submitted by John Seitz for this fee schedule. Next, rest of our other permits are staying the same. And as far as our municipal court fees, the witness fee, requested jury, and juror fee are staying the same, and those are established in our fee schedule. However, the administrative fees for court appearance and attendance, there is no policy to support those in the fee schedule yet, so we need to that.
What are those fees?
Wait, wouldn't that be like shouldn't that be by statute? For court appearance?
I'll look into that. I haven't been able to find
Because I don't feel like that, I mean, can the town just set the prices for what the fee is for a court appearance? I feel like that should be mandated somewhere.
Mhm.
I don't know. Absolutely, it's just a guess, but I feel like it's arbitrary if a town can set the price for the court appearance fee.
True, so yeah, I just haven't found that policy yet, so I'm gonna keep looking for
Okay.
trying.
Oh, yeah, well, and another thing, sorry, back to the building stuff, and it sounds like you're talking about this, Gloria, is like the hazard district fee, right? Those things might take more time. Like some of these things on here might take more time and some of them take less time. And how do we differentiate that? Yeah.
Then continuing on, our parking fees and fines are staying the same except for the OHV where prohibited. Of course, we had a resolution passed earlier this year, 2207. That raises the fine from $75 to $300. And the code reference for that fine is changed to 8-3-30 as with new code updates, 8-3-40 was I guess you'd say repealed because that had all of the sub information for OHVs, and now 8-3-30 just no HVs allowed to tap, period.
We don't have anything in here. The comments that were made to me from a citizen about like, you know, we have diagonal parking only signs and all that. Again, it's just like, these are just signs that are suggestions, right? We don't have fees that enforce those parking regulations, right?
Yeah, if you're too close to a fire hydrant, if you're parked in a crosswalk, fire lane, double parked would be if you were to park parallel in a diagonal.
Okay, gotcha.
So yeah, there are
Okay,
fees for that.
so the double parked would be not parking diagonally in them.
Those fees are established with mall traffic code.
Yeah.
And that's something that I want to bring up to the trustees at some point too, is because the county adopted a newer model traffic code. We're still operating on an older one. Anthony had said that he would prefer if we stayed on the older one. But it is kind of best practice to be in line with the county. So that's something I'll be bringing up in later meetings.
And finishing up, we just haven't found any policy on our cemetery fees. I mean, there's things saying that we have those fees, just no actual code or anything yet. So just need to establish that. And then that brings us down to the bottom of our 2023 fee schedule draft.
Thank you, Matt.
Any questions, comments?
No, thanks for getting it, making sure that that each one has a policy and that it's cleared up. This is just another huge improvement to make sure that we have, you know, everything has a reason and there's backing behind it. And yeah, it's clear and transparent for all the folks in town. So thank you.
Absolutely. One of my missions is to make everything as transparent and user friendly as possible.
That's great. I did have 3 questions, of course, I always do. One, as we're thinking about our rental fees for Kendall and Mullis, do we feel like they're sufficient? I mean, in reviewing these, did we feel like they were?
So no, we are reviewing the fees, but Nathan has been working with a company out of Denver who offers to help like give numbers as far as what other areas are renting. So it's like a tourist kind of marketing company.
Yeah.
The last time he met with them, he was expecting to get, you know, numbers for comparable size communities, and they gave him all of Denver's numbers, which he was like, that's not comparable at all. We can't do that. So yeah, so there are definitely some fees that are subject to change in here. Like I did not update this last year because it was such a big, when I looked at it, I was like, oh gosh, there's so much to do here. So this is like a preliminary kind of, we know there's still some issues that we need to shake out, but this is what we can present to you all this year.
Yeah.
And then keep digging back and trying to get those policies adopted and looking at kind of how we are actually charging these fees. So it's quite the project.
Yes, it sounds like it's long-term and we're building the scaffolding for the changes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was great. And then something maybe,
On that real quick, that's also one of the main reasons why I decided to color code the non-changes between outside resolutions in the fee schedule. Just that way, at a glance, if the trustees are considering wanting to adjust it, they know that it's easy enough to adopt in the new fee schedule instead of having to write a whole nother resolution to alter it.
Yep, that's great. And then just something, it would be great to have on our radar. It probably is on your radar, but as we think about the types of things we want built in this community, according to the master plan, like what are the ways that we can reduce those barriers in the fee schedule?
And that's through the pass-through fees as well.
Yeah,
So that's something that CPS has talked to us about as far as considering if we do want to see, you know, like a auxiliary dwelling unit for every house built, then perhaps we don't charge for that pass-through fee.
Yeah.
You know, and we just charge for staff time, but not for our auxiliary time.
Yeah.
So there's definitely ways to incentivize what we want to see.
yeah, that's great. So as long as that's on your radar, long-term rentals, affordable housing, all that stuff.
Yep.
And then how do I find a resolution? Like if I want to.
Yeah, so on Google, all of our resolutions are on, they are on Google. So-
Our Google Drive. So if you go to the online documents tab in the town page,
Okay,
it'll bring you to this Google Drive.
yeah,
Or if you click a subfolder on that link, you'll
Yeah.
see the subfolder. Anyhow, on the town of Silverton online documents, you've got a resolution.
and they're all there. Yep, okay, that's great. That's what I was looking, I knew you guys had it somewhere. I just was not finding it. Yep. And that's available, that's all public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the easiest way to find our municipal code is,
Oh, the code I got, yeah, that one I'm fine, but I was like, where do I find the resolutions? Yep.
I just Google Silverton Municipal Code Colorado.
Yeah.
And that's top link with muni code right there.
Boom.
So if anybody wants to review the site,
Yep. Thank you.
just throw that out there for anybody watching online.
And we recently updated it, correct?
Yes, so the muni code was updated February of 2022. So usually the best practice is to check the most recent year's resolutions against the muni code, because those resolutions
Yeah.
have been applied to the code yet.
Yeah.
And then every year around New Year's, I submit all the resolutions and ordinances to our.
And yeah. And resolutions don't go in the code, just the ordinances do.
Mhm.
Just wanted to clarify that one.
Thank you, Matt, for doing that.
No problem. All right. No, we will, so this, next steps for the fee schedule will be, to be presented to the trustees as a whole, for adoption, and then, we'll probably be rolling out a couple of policies, kind of a meeting so that we can keep up with that and not do it all in one meeting. So if you guys get like a policy, you'll get a policy for like 3 or 4 fees and then another policy. So, just to kind of tackle this big elephant.
Chip away. Do we adopt the fee schedule every year?
Typically, we're supposed to, yes. We did not do one last year, which is okay. Like you can let it go a couple years. My advisors had told me, so I was so overwhelmed
Yeah.
when I first started that I was like, they're like, it's
Yeah.
okay to just let this fee schedule go this year and adopt it again next year.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at.
Great.
I
So
think,
away.
one of my dealings with the Department of Revenue liquor licensing guys is they don't adopt a new liquor fee schedule every year unless there's edits to it.
Ah.
So I was still kind of confused when I was looking at it, like, this is still a 2021 or 2020
Yeah.
schedule.
Yeah.
That's this one that got published. So.
All right. So yeah, next steps will be to the trustees and with those policies as well, but I'll try and get this one adopted so that we have a 2023 fee schedule on the books, and then it will change, we'll be doing some updates and changes to it. All right, going on to our CIP projects. So the voting or the opportunity to give input ended at 4:00 on October 12th. We had a total of 83 participants in the CIP project prioritization. So not as big as you would have anticipated, but we got 83 people to come into town hall. So we're pretty excited about that number. And then this is the kind of the total breakdown here. So looking like, and we're following along in the packet. So it looks like Silverton Perimeter Trail received 160 votes. Riverwalk, 141. Then it went down to vehicular and pedestrian signage and urban trail network, and then Mullis Lodge, in that order on the prioritization.
Can I add a clarification for the record too, in case someone randomly listens later on? Remember, people got multiple dollar town bucks.
Right,
So
they
that's
got
why the,
$5 each.
yeah, $5 each. So the voting does not directly correspond to the number of participants.
Correct. And so that's kind of a breakdown that we can work with. I did not do a public service announcement on this yet because I wanted to run it by this committee and our Facilities, Parks and Rec Committee to kind of talk about funding and how we can work with these projects. But basically we have $25,000, and what kind of started this whole process was we have a capital improvements or it's called a capital outlay
Yeah.
committed to future capital line item that's been in our budget, I think since 2000. I could not find a resolution on when it was established. So I would like to establish a resolution for that line item and kind of plan for some of these projects. So currently we have $25,000 in that line item. I have budgeted again for this year to contribute $25,000 to that, to give it that $50,000 line item, and potentially using that for grants moving forward. This also gives us prioritization on kind of what grants to look for next year and what grants to put our efforts towards to apply for. I'm not surprised the Silverton Perimeter Trail won because it does encompass a lot. But there's little things that we can do to start on these projects, like surveys and kind of budgeting for maybe a survey of the perimeter trail next year would be a first step. And then also talking through kind of what that trail looks like. So is it crushed gravel? Are they expecting paved? Or can we do this in kind of a phased approach? So now we can kind of start wrapping our heads around some of these projects.
Because something like that trail could involve variances and easements. And I mean, there's all kinds of steps.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Correct. So really, I think the first step on that one would be definitely a survey to make sure that, you know, all the land is in fact able to be used for that perimeter trail and that we can actually do it. And how we can acquire that land or those easements to do that trail. And then the other portion of that was the input sought for the cemetery fence. And so so it was asked if we should erect a new fence. Since we've taken the majority of the old one down, and we received 35 yes votes and 59 no votes. So some people came in and I think they participated just for either the cemetery or the fireworks, because this one got 94 in the bucket, total participation. And then there's currently 20,000 in the cemetery budget for erecting a new fence. But I would like to bring this decision to the Board of Trustees, since it has been a community interest and there's been a little bit of I mean, not everyone wants to see a fence and not everyone wants a fence to go away. So this is one of those policy scratchers where we are going to come to the head scratchers for policy that we're going to come to the Board of Trustees with. Any questions on this? It was really fun to see everyone come in and spend their dollars. I'm not sure if it provided as much feedback as I had hoped for, but it was a great way to kind of open the door back up for everyone to feel comfortable coming back to the town hall. So I definitely have some notes to refine the process next year a little bit. And potentially, I was nervous to add a online component, given that a lot of online surveys can get hijacked pretty quickly. So I'm looking into other engagement kind of avenues that we could do next year for engagement in our budget process. But if if we got 84 people to engage in or 83 people to engage in our budget process, that's great for this size town.
Mhm.
I think we got that in Durango for one of our processes. So, and we called that a success. So I feel like it's more of a success up here.
I think you're setting a new norm. This is something people weren't used to doing. So I think it sets a new norm. And if people know that this is happening regularly, I heard great feedback that it was happening, even if maybe people never made the time to come by, right? So I think don't be discouraged.
Yeah, no, and I also realized it was a great time for people to really review some of our plans, you know, and we talk about all these plans that are on the shelf, but like this was their opportunity to see kind of how far we've gotten with some of those plans and how far we have to go. Okay, any other questions on the CIP projects? Okay. All right, now we are moving on to this is probably the meat and potatoes of our meeting today is the nonprofit request review. We did receive, I didn't count how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 applications. I just emailed you the number 14. That came in late, so I wanted to kind of get your all's thoughts if we wanted to honor that one or not. And then our total ask was actually with that 14th application is 99,220.
Double our budget.
Yes, so it is double. I had put in a placeholder of about $40,000 for nonprofit requests, anticipating 30 was intended for the formal requests and 10 was intended for randoms, but you all can allocate that all towards this. You can tell me to bump up the line item, like you can give me a lot of feedback here is what I'm asking for. I do want not to put all of the pressure on this committee to decide on who gets what, when, on November 7th. If we don't have kind of a decision made here, we can present these to the entire board for our work session. But kind of wanted to just chat with you all on kind of how to move forward the best way to review these applications. I did email them all out, and you know what, next time I did put on my standard operating procedure to give you all some more time to review these, because last year I think we had only received probably about 8 or 9 requests, and this year was definitely doubled. So realizing that this was probably a long weekend of reading a lot of applications, that I want to apologize for that, and I'm trying to anticipate that for next year. Any thoughts on these or how you guys would like to move forward?
Can I ask a quick clarifying question? How did this play out last year? Did we get a request for more than we budgeted for, or do we not have a line item budget?
So we budget, so I put in for 30.
Jim's laughing at.
I put in 30,000 last year.
Uh-huh.
And luckily I think we went over it by about 4,000.
So not double.
No, not double.
Yeah.
This year's definitely double. And then I talked with MSI and CSAS, and they said they were asking for 20,000, even though we had capped it at 10,000, because it was a joint application. That was their logic there. So just wanted to relay that information, and then the theater group turned theirs in on Sunday. So wanted to kind of give you all the discretion on if we wanted to accept that one or not.
And we're still waiting for Carrie's. Let's see.
And we are still waiting for Carrie's. I did not receive it yet. And I'm not sure what Carrie's is for. We were texting, she was sick on Friday, asked if she could turn it in today. I asked her to tell me the amount, so at least I had a ballpark of what we'd be expecting from them, but I didn't ask what it was for.
So this is a difficult one because Typically, like all the grant stuff that we do, if you turn it in late, that's it. They just automatically rule you out. That way they can pare down the number of grants they have to review. But, since we're such a small town and we know all of the stuff happening, it's a little bit more difficult to just rule people out based on missing a date or missing something on the timeline, especially when it's for some of these really important community needs. So yeah, I'm not really sure. What do you guys think?
I think this was a really tough one, right? Because we're getting a double request, almost more than double of what we kind of had budgeted or done in the past. I think one, that's a really great sign because it means we have this energy and enthusiasm, I think, in our community for doing things. And we have some new groups involved, what the Powerhouse is doing, some new proposals here. I think when I was reflecting on this, right, because it's really hard. It's like picking your favorite child, right? It's not a super easy thing to do. And we aren't like a grant review committee, which is basically what this is. And we don't have a certain set of criteria. But the lens that I was trying to use is which of these organizations are really good for leveraging dollars, right? So with a small amount of investment, you really get a pretty big bang for your buck back to the town that benefits a wide variety of people. So for me, the things that stood out were like San Juan Development Association, where, if we give back $10,000, she's bringing in multiple thousands and thousands of dollars for our businesses. She's worked on housing. To me, that's sort of like, well, that's pretty big bang for your buck of what you can leverage. And without town support, she doesn't quite have that institutional, she can use town support to go leverage that to get funding from other places as well. To me, that came up with Baker's Park as well, right? They have this documented success of getting millions of dollars in grants. And by having small bits of money from the town, they're able to leverage that small amount of support to something much greater. So some of those stood out to me. And then another lens, so the first lens I was kind of thinking of is like leverage, where our dollars really go pretty far for wide community benefit. The second lens I was kind of thinking of is, do these places have other significant sources of support? And so like something that stood out to me with the shuttle was like, this is a great idea, but if it's really a sustainable business idea, they might be able to get a loan or to be able to work with San Juan Development Association or to seek other funding. So there were some of these where I just thought, I'm wondering if there are other better sources of funding. And I was kind of hung up on like philosophical role of government ideas, right? Is it the role of government to provide this service or to support this? The clinic came up to me, and you guys know I just presented for 45 minutes about how much we need primary care, but I'm going to argue the clinic has 95% of their patients that have insurance. So why should the town be carrying the cost for the financial support of the clinic if the clinic doesn't have an operating model that is billing insurance? And the other point with the clinic is that they're asking for an EHR system. They hired a consultant 6 months ago or almost a year ago now. Or no, it was this summer. They hired a consultant this summer to look at their operating model, look at their sustainability. And this consultant suggested a free electronic health record system to them. My husband has provided them some information for free electronic health records. And so I have a hard time justifying that expense when there are other sources for them.
And we use a free ePCR, electronic patient care record format that the state provides anybody that can't afford their own. So
yeah,
I mean, there are free alternatives out there. Surely it isn't the greatest or easiest setup, but it still works.
Yeah. So I think there were some of these, those are just kind of my lenses, is like, is it the role of government here? Like the shuttle, it's a great idea. I love this idea, but is the town getting in the business of like providing public transit? I don't know. I think we kind of need to answer that question. So is it our role? Do they have other funding, and how well are these dollars leveraged?
Also, so I review grants for the Southwest RETAC Board and the San Juan County Community Fund Board. And I think we can't do it this year, but just having I guess, sort of a matrix to score them on. And then, that way you just go through, you score them based on whatever it has in the matrix. And then, the top, however many get that award or whatever awards dollars are there. And then, you share that with the people that are applying for the grants. That way they know exactly what they need to fill out. And then we score it that way. And that makes it a lot easier and more objective rather than just me saying, well, I think this is really important, so we should go with this one.
I do have a scoring card that we used from last year.
Okay.
And it was organization, total amount requested, service to the community, and we had to score that 1 to 10. And the relevancy of projects or items requested. So that would be 1 to 10. And then those were our two kind of.
Did they show other, so we always require their operating budget from the previous year and their financial records. And that way we can really see what are their other sources of revenue? Where else are they getting money? And that way, if they got, $100,000 from somewhere else, we can say, oh, well, maybe you don't really need the $2,000 you're asking.
Yeah.
From us.
There's a couple of organizations that I put a star next to. So this is either that they are, so Skidoring is one of them. We are partnered for another year with them according to our contract for $5,000. So the request states 15,000, but this includes the 5,000 already budgeted in our contract. So they are asking for additional 10,000 on top of the 5,000 that we've already budgeted for. For San Juan Development, I had budgeted them in our partners for 5,000. We don't have a contract or a memorandum of understanding with San Juan Development as of right now. But I had put that in because we had put that in last year. So ideally, I would like them not to be part of the nonprofit requests and just have them be part of our partner requests. And so that was one kind of area. And I actually asked her to submit this so that we could talk about it in a way that, so you guys had all of San Juan Development information to look at and evaluate. Yes, let's keep them as partners. That would be my recommendation. And then the Silverton Creative District, this is a 10,000 on top of the 10,000 that we already allocate for Summer Sounds. So some of those requests have other areas in our budget that are impacted. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. And so I'm not sure if we want to go through each one, and I could fill out a score for each one as we move forward. I do have a spreadsheet kind of pulled up with each one on there. And I could put the two criteria from last year on there, which is service to the community and relevancy of project or items requested. And if we wanted to add any more, I could put those as well. And we could kind of walk through them and give them their scores if that would work best. Or Jim, do you have another idea?
No, I think a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet would be very handy at this point in time to see what we've done in the past, who we've worked with in the past, dollar amounts, past dollar amounts to future requests and current requests.
Okay.
Yeah, some of these groups I'm interested in. Others, we do need a scale, and we do need that template.
All right, so if we work through them today, and then we could present this spreadsheet to our whole group on the 7th, I think that might help things move a little faster as far as deciding who gets what. So today we could just score them and then present this on the 7th. Would that work? Okay, great. All right, and so our scoring categories are currently the service to the community and relevancy of the projects or items requested. Did we want to add any more scoring to that?
What do you guys think of like this leverage idea? Again, I think there's a role for us, like a little bit of seed money can really help a really small organization, but I think there's also a point of like, again, $10,000 for San Juan Development Association brings in significantly more amounts of money. Or some of these events, you could say, well, they bring in sales tax dollars. So I don't know, kind of like leverage or contribution, or does that kind of muddy?
Well, I think so, and some of them are, the difference for me also is like, some of them bring in other dollars, but I'm looking at the CSAS request, and I feel like that's also an important one because they partner with CAIC and they help forecast, and that's like more of a safety thing for the town, but it doesn't bring in dollars, like so that makes it hard to, like, it's almost like that one should be like, okay, what kind of money can they bring in, and then what the contrast is, what does it do for the community from another aspect, in this case like a safety standpoint or a research standpoint. But
Jim, did you have something?
I do. I'm going to go ahead and agree with Tyler on this one. Several years back, we had discussed creating true line items for the clinic, for SAS, for some of these groups that are more partners than anything else, and that do contribute in the form of safety, security, health. And I haven't seen that happen in the past 2 years. And I do think that is a delineation line for some of these groups, whether they are public-private, whether they're joint. It just provides more information for us and allows us to make better educated decisions on how to move forward. But some of them I do feel, and for example, the clinic, other source funding for them, but this is a true community asset that we as a town, yes, individuals have insurance, yes, some don't, but what is the clinic's function, and what is its function with regards to the town of Silverton, the county of San Juan, and how are we as a community to fund it? That to me is just, healthcare for me, especially in a community our size, is paramount.
And Jim, I do remember last year we had discussed adding a line item for this year for the clinic. So I don't think I did that, but I didn't do that not on purpose. So I think that just kind of missed it for this last one. So I have now in my spreadsheet recommending moving to partner, yes or no. So maybe this is a partnership and we do a dedicated line item to them.
Well, please, I'm not calling anyone out or saying anyone.
Oh, no, I'm just telling you how it is.
I'm definitely going to want us to see a sustainability plan if they become a partner. I'm sorry, I have very little confidence in their ability to adapt for the future to provide sustainable healthcare. So Jim, I'm all with you that it's a top priority for healthcare, but one, the role of the town in supporting it versus the county, and two, a sustainability plan from them.
Well, and I think this is where this type of spreadsheet, this gathering of information helps out. Because it is clear to me, and I know I've had separate conversations, not with you, Dana, but with others, that you definitely have your finger on the pulse and have way more information on this particular topic than a lot of us do.
So I'm going to join the meeting and share my screen, if that works. And we can kind of work through the spreadsheet so you guys can give me input that way. Does that work? Better, hopefully. Yep. Okay. Join us, panelists.
And I really like what you guys both brought up too, because something like a farmer's market, or like you said, SAS, it's, you know, they're not bringing dollar amounts to the town, but they can serve a really critical function for health, safety, and well-being. Yeah.
Sounds.
Oh,
Might be trying to double all.
okay, I'll leave it and come back. Let me log off the Zoom real quick. I'm out. Okay, now I'll try to get on. Yeah, it doesn't promote me to panelists that way, does it? Okay, now try. All right. Okay, now I'm going to share my screen. Can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Great. I'm gonna hide you guys down here. Okay.
It is, it's like ranking your favorite children.
Last year to this year and or previous years.
Okay. And I have this one, last year's award. We'll put that in.
Okay.
Um,
I guess also. Why did the GC apply for two separate grants rather than putting it under one grant with different priorities? Because like on our grant form, it's like, you know, fill out 1 to 10, what you want money for and then what the priority is.
Mhm.
They came from two different people. So one was from Julian and I forget who the other one was from.
Danny Castle.
Yeah.
Oh, for the radio?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which he also gave these stickers, so
Oh,
I was gonna
yay.
give them
Got
out to
stickers.
you guys.
Yeah.
I'll put them in, I'll put your stickers in your box.
I don't know, are we going philosophical here? Role of government? Like, is this the role of the town to do this?
I could do that. Do you want me to add that?
To me, that sort of gets at, it helps disentangle, like, is this really within the purview of what the town pays attention to? Because I don't know, it gets a
Well,
little murky.
We could put that in the comments as well.
I think also, I think maybe, and just looking these over, like the detail that some people filled out their grant application with is better, and it shows what they're going to use the monies for. Like if you look at the farmers market, I mean, they really filled out exactly what they're going to be using these monies for, and you know, what other grants they're applying for and what their future plans are. And then, you know, some of the other ones are not maybe as detailed, then I might just rank it based on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think too, a perspective that I was having is like you're saying, Jim, what have we given in the past and what have they done with the money that we've given them? You know, like, how have they used it? We've given them some and then they've fundraised or they've gotten other grants to supplement it, or like how many events did they put on with this? Like, have they kind of been good stewards of what we've historically given them as well?
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
So another column possibility for last year's award.
Good stewardship? I don't know.
Also-
That's kind of a funny, yeah.
I would recommend like simpler the better to start with, and then we have comments on the side that the entire group can evaluate on the 7th, if that would
I think that's
be okay. But I do want to say, if you guys don't feel like relevancy of project or items requested, I think that's where it kind of comes into like, is it our role to fund as a government?
Sure. Does
And-
this fit with our math? Yeah, go ahead, Tyler. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Also, like, is the plan in place? So, I know for the shuttle, Gloria, you and I met with Julian to talk about the shuttle, and like, was the follow-up that was asked for completed on that project? As far as what licensings needed to be done, like, you know, how much it would cost to get those permits, where, you know, what would their schedule be, et cetera, like, or are we just going to fund the shuttle and then they're going to figure that out?
So no, those questions that we did our follow-up on were not answered and not responded to when we asked to do
Okay,
a
so
committee meeting for that.
yeah, so that, you know, that helps me sort of
And I'm gonna piggyback on this
prioritize
one.
that.
I'm gonna piggyback on Tyler on this one really quick. This is a sticky situation for me. I think it's a great idea. It's a fantastic idea. However, there's a lot of moving components involved that, I mean, just PUC alone with regards to transporting humans from one location to another, insurance and transporting humans from one location to another. I didn't see any of that information provided, and I'm not picking on the idea. I think it's an incredible idea, and I understand the impetus behind it. I don't know if the town of Silverton wants to get into the transportation business. And obviously we're not getting into the business, but we are funding this project, and it's just rate of return on investment.
Well, and again,
also,
Tyler, go ahead.
well, the blueprint for the project isn't complete, whereas giving money to the farmers market, it's been up and running, you know, it's been proven that it works. And, you know that when you spend those dollars, you're going to see a farmers market up and happening. Whereas, like, I want to see the transportation in too. I joined Julian in the meeting to help get it started, but it's without the rest of the plan in place, it's really difficult for me to then fund it.
Well, and again, even if it was a sustainable business model, even as a nonprofit free shuttle, there should be other sources of funding for that. A business loan, a nonprofit loan. Like, I think that there are other avenues.
So before we get into the weeds on one of them, do we want to just start evaluating them so that we can just get some numbers down and
Yes.
and then be able to look at it all as a whole?
Yeah.
Okay.
And as we go through it, I think, you know, we can remember that since we're scoring it for the first time, if we get to the bottom and we realize, oh, well, we should go back and maybe change that score on that one based on having been through the entire list, I think that, you know, we're flexible. So
I did send you all an email with the packets separately from that email. Okay, good. So you all have the packets. I did that because I wasn't sure. I didn't want to share everyone's budget information to the whole world. So I just thought maybe we'd keep it within us. But I think I started with Center for Snow and Avalanche Studies. I did it in the order they were received, basically.
Yep, let's just do it.
So a 1 to 10 score on service to Silverton community for their $2,000 request.
So, and this one, we've given them money last year in 2022, $1,500. So, but the one thing that so this is near and dear to us because we use their forecasting equipment every morning in the winter to make sure that if we're responding to a call, we know what the avalanche conditions are. And they help, like I said, they help CAIC. So it's like it's more of a health and safety priority for me. But yeah, that's that's my stance on this particular one.
Jim?
Yeah, before we go one organization at a time, can we populate? Could we populate last year's awards first?
Yeah, it's just hard for me with two things.
Here, let me,
hold on.
I can read them to you.
Okay, yeah.
I'll pull them up from the
memo would be great.
Memo. Let me get the memo up.
Sorry, I just have one screen here and it's hard to go back and forth.
Okay, hold on.
But I might be able to do this. Oh, when I minimize, you guys still see this. Oh, okay. Never mind. I can totally do this.
Okay, wait, hold on. I have a bunch of I can read it off too. I just gotta pull it up. Okay, Finance Committee meeting packet. Okay. Center for Snow and Avalanche, 1,500.
Okay.
Radio station, none. Community radio for shuttle, none.
Farmers market.
Farmers Market, 3,250. Ski join. So last year we increased their contracted amount by 5,000.
Correct.
Okay, so did we
Just
have
for that
zero-
one.
Zero before that, and we increased, this was my question. I was not clear what we've contributed to ski join. It was very confusing to me.
Okay, so last year we increased our contract amount, so we would give them 5,000, we increased it by another 5,000, so they would receive 10,000.
Last year.
Yes.
Okay, so it is 10.
And 5,000 of that was contracted.
But really, like, I still want to know the total amount.
Sure, okay, I'll put
Yeah.
10,000.
Yeah, because again, even if we're talking about San Juan Development Association, like, it's still a total amount.
Cool.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't care if it's contracted, it has
Sure.
an MOU or not, it's dollars from our coffers, from taxpayers.
We gave 5,000 to San Juan Development Association last year.
Yep, okay, 10,000, so Summer Sounds, we gave 20,000 last year.
Yeah.
Right, 10,000 for Summer Sounds and 10,000 for general budget.
Yep.
Okay. Speaker Powerhouse, none. Silverton Clinic, we gave 10,000. This was another question. Well, I won't get into it right now.
And it went towards their emergency.
Which nobody knows about the
Emergency
emergency loan fund. They are not
Emergency.
advertising it. They are not dispersing funds. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna keep asking for more accountability there because the funds are not being used. So that's my soapbox. Single Track Society, 10,000. Film Office, 5,000. Senior Center. Do we have a line item last year or just what we do with the modular?
Just what we did with the modular last
Okay.
year. They didn't do a formal ask.
And then MSI and then CAS was 2,500. I like that they asked for half of our nonprofit budget. That I found amusing.
All right. Now we got that filled in. Feeling better? Okay, cool.
Thank you.
All right.
So
Let me make it a little bigger.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
That,
Yes,
That
thank
up?
you.
okay. And then we've got, okay, that works.
and Gloria, I'm sorry, I had just read our packet, and I'm just going through all of these, all the separate ones. I didn't see that separate email. My mistake.
So we can just start with the Center for Snow and Avalanche Studies.
Is it clear
So-
why it went up $500? Can we, I mean, if we valued it last year, we thought it was, we rated it according to this criteria. Do we know why it has to be 2,000 instead of just 1,500?
And these are stuff too that I can go back and ask the organizations. That's what we did a lot last year too, is we did this initial meeting, we had questions, I went up back and asked the organizations, and then we reviewed it all as a whole. Is that something you'd like me to ask them?
I don't know. I'm curious the feedback from these guys.
Sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we can expect that most of these numbers will have gone up based on the economy in the last year, inflation, et cetera. And then just by, browsing the letters of support for CSS, I mean, they have 11 letters of support from people like the Colorado State University, United States Department of the Interior,
Yeah.
Southwest Water Conservation District, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess how much do we value?
This is falls in for me under the health and community service category.
Like
Health,
if it went
wellness.
away, it'd be a big problem. If this went away, it's a problem.
Right, it's a resource aiding our first responders.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think this is something that we need to.
So would that be a 10 for service to community?
Yeah, it's gonna be, I mean, I don't know if, yeah, I guess I would go, I would start at an 8, and then after going through all the rest of them, I could decide if anything else was a 10, but
Okay,
yeah,
Great.
but
not $8. We're gonna have to change that formatting.
we will give you $8. Congratulations.
It's like Wheel of Fortune. You wanted 2,000, but you landed on 8.
Just a number. We just want a number there.
Price is right. Over or under?
Okay. Okay, and then relevancy of project.
Again, can we just clarify, are we talking about relevancy to the master plan, relevancy to trustee goals, relevancy to what?
Also,
I need
it's-
someone to define it.
More of a, and I hate to say this, but is this more of like, is this more relevant to the county and not us as the town? And I, you know, I really support these guys and their goal, but I just, yeah, what does the relevancy apply to?
And I could go back after this and look through our master plan and do a column here that says like where it relates in our master plan. But if you guys want.
Well, I don't, some of these items don't even, they're not associated or affiliated with the master plan.
Right.
Yeah,
Some of these items we're gonna do because it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And I mean, I think we can put the column there if we want to, but
Do you guys remember last year what you meant by relevancy? That might help us because we didn't have the master plan last year. So how are you rating? What did relevancy mean last year?
I think it's just a very subjective term, like we can.
it is subjective. I mean, is it what's relevant to me may not be relevant to somebody else, or you, or Tyler, or Gloria.
But if we could all agree on a relevancy, like.
I mean, is it something that we're going to get stuck on? Can we leave a blank and come back to it? After
I know,
looking
maybe
at
we just, yeah, maybe we rank service to the community and partner. I'm stuck on like what relevancy means. Or its relevancy to our role as the town. I don't know.
Well, it
Like, I
sounded
guess
like.
the San Juan, yeah, so like, I'm trying to take a different one because this one is a little more difficult for me, but maybe like if we took what is it, the development funds or San Juan Development Fund, since they work so closely with us on all of our projects, like maybe that would be a relevancy of like 9 or 10 for me. But like, yeah, I'm kind of stuck on this one too. Can we leave it blank and move on and then come back and after we've gone through them, sort of see if we changed our.
Yeah.
So is the Center for Snow and Avalanche Studies a entity that we would like to recommend moving to a partner at some point?
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to have the longevity to be a partner long term. I mean, they've been around for at least 10 years, but longer than that now. But CAIC does the bulk of like the forecasting work, and they're helping with some of the more out there forecasting, like, you know, the specialized places in the county. So I don't know if moving them to partner makes sense. I don't know.
It seems like partner is more like institutions that are doing things almost on behalf of the town. Like San Juan Development Association, you know, Silverton Creative District, executing events for the town, ski joring, putting on this event for the town. You know, we talk about fireworks, the volunteer fire department, like things that are done kind of on behalf of the town, the senior center. I don't think Center for Snow and Avalanche Studies really fits there.
Okay.
Personally.
All right. So skipping the relevancy of project or item requested, and we can totally come up with something else. I'm just trying to give us some structure.
I might go with role of government. This is the role of government.
I could totally put that
I
there.
don't know.
Would you all think that that would be better than relevancy of project is role of government,
Or role of town.
role of town?
Yeah, we can try. I mean, we can try it. I'm just trying to think ahead and say, okay, which one of these how would I rank these as, what's their priority in the role of town?
Yeah.
So,
Or responsibility of town, I should say, maybe.
yeah, you could just say responsibility of town and then put yes or no.
Yeah.
You think yes or no, rather than a scale?
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Let's go, well, okay, let's go with yes or no. And it doesn't mean that we won't fund anything that we have a no for, but I think it is just a helpful context for like, is this something that typically a town would pay for or support or not?
Okay, so for the Center for Snow and Avalanche Studies. Oh, Jim?
I don't know.
No, I was just gonna make a comment. I agree with what they just said. However, a lot of these projects that we look at it through the scope of the size of our community, because I know in larger communities, and Gloria, you can chime in on this one because you've worked in these larger communities. I've worked on the outside, inside of these larger communities. Most of these projects would have been, thank you very much for your submittal, but not this year. And I mean, that's just, but we do things here because they're the right thing to do and because our community is the size that it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like, this wasn't a formal process when I first
Yes,
started.
exactly. And it
It
never
came in
was.
kind of all
Yes.
over the place, and we had this line item and we weren't like budgeting accordingly to that line item. And so this is my attempt to try and harness those asks into one place so you all can budget accordingly.
Yeah.
But yeah, like some of the requests that we received when I first started were very, kind of caught me off guard as far as what would be requested of the town.
Mhm.
But it's Silverton, it's different. But if that's something like
And
responsibility
that's
of
not
the
a bad
town,
thing.
What's that?
It's not a bad thing. It just is what it is.
yeah,
Right.
But I think as we're thinking about these increases in requests, again, to me, it says this is really great that there's all these groups doing and serving these important roles in our community. And what is the role of the town in supporting it? And I'm going to go back to even philosophically, like, I know I've said this multiple times, but there's still no line item for like improved skating and facility at Kendall, which has come up so many times. You know, we're not even budgeting things in our current budget that have already been prioritized by the community. So I have a hard time doubling our nonprofit request budget when we don't have a ball field that is functioning and we don't have any money that we're planning on fixing the sprinklers. You know, we have town resources that only the town can take care of and steward, and we don't necessarily have line items for those. And so I have a hard time doubling the nonprofit budget. Personally,
Are we sure
philosophically.
Are we sure they're not budgeted or in a subcategory somewhere? Because
they are in. So yeah, so there's a maintenance category in Kendall that has those those in there, and that it's broken out. But I see where you're getting is like we want to make sure that we're taking care of our assets that have already been prioritized, and then move on to outside organizations and supporting them. Is that okay?
Yeah, philosophically, that's where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm. So we can totally figure this out.
I don't know. Responsibility of town, yes or no? I don't know. What if we just go through and start ranking
Okay,
number
service to the.
It is somewhere.
All right, we'll do that.
I liked your comment, Gloria, that maybe the town for a PA system like this comes up multiple times. Like maybe it just makes sense for the town to have one and rent it out. I mean, was there any more staff comment on that idea?
Jim?
So the town used to have one. This was many moons ago.
Okay.
I don't know what happened to it. I know at one time, again, a while back, even the chamber would borrow it every once in a while. I think having a PA system for town would be fantastic, just something that we need, a part of doing business.
Okay.
The community radio station, it serves the public.
Yeah.
I think this is definitely more of a 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7.
Mm-hmm. No, let's just pick one. Put 6. Pick. There you go. It's in the middle. 6.5. No, I don't know.
Why in January?
I love it because that's when we're going to fund it, January 6th.
Yep, it serves the larger community, but if the town could meet that need by having our own system, that might make more sense.
Okay.
Right.
So maybe we put that in the comments, like this could be a town resource.
But in the submittal, what are they're asking for this grant to be able to purchase one for themselves?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did I read that incorrectly?
No, that's correct.
Okay. All right.
I'll reword that better at some point.
It seems like we all had a lot of concerns with this line item. With the shuttle.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think the number one thing to consider is what Tyler said, which unfortunately is the packet could have been incomplete. Am I off on that one, T?
no, and after doing a little research, there's almost all the small ski towns and small mountain towns in Colorado, the town provides some sort of free shuttle service, and oftentimes the town pays for it and the county helps pay for it. But I don't know if the plan is in place for this one to be funded right now. I want to fund it. I would love to have a shuttle service in town, especially, take people to Silverton Mountain, pick up OHVs that are parked outside of town, or pick up those folks. And I think it's a great idea. I'm not sure that the plan has been rounded out enough. Yeah, and but like I asked Gloria earlier in the meeting, have we had follow up on that? And if we haven't, and we're not sort of moving forward on permitting and the other plans that we need to have done, then I'm a little bit worried about funding it.
And I think too, I would like to know if they pursued funding, again, if this is a sustainable business idea, even as a nonprofit, because it doesn't have to be a for-profit endeavor. Have they proposed it to secure potentially a loan or talked with Beth with San Juan Development Association? Like there's just more here before I'm ready to commit the funding. Kind of in the same discussion about the clinic, that I have too many unanswered questions about this project. And maybe we want to add it to our planning for the next year around like how we move people around town, right? We're trying to pay attention to pedestrian and walkways and trails and how people are going to move around town. A shuttle option could be something that we kick around with those discussions, but I'm not sure funding it in this fashion is quite the right way to go about it yet.
Do we throw out a number for this one yet?
Yeah, it's going to have to be lower on my list.
Yeah.
2 or 3 based on the information provided. Again, be a huge supporter of it, but we just don't have enough information.
Yeah.
And Go ahead.
Sorry, T.
Sorry.
Um, the column, is this a service to the community? Yes, this could be a possible 10 in the service
Yeah.
to the community.
Yeah.
However, is it responsibility of the community or the town of Silverton? NA, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
Do we recommend moving forward or exploring additional information? Absolutely. I just don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
And on the budget provided, they gave us, parts and maintenance, insurance, fuel, advertising materials, registrations and fees, and then the purchase of the vehicle. And the amount that they're asking for us would only pay for the purchase of the vehicle. It wouldn't cover any of the rest of that. And they don't show any other
Funding.
revenues to help pay for those. So
Yeah. Yeah. And the ridership, 7,500 people a year. I don't know. The business plan there, it just seemed like there wasn't quite enough information provided to us. But I agree with you, Jim. I think it could be a huge service to the community. But one, is it the role of the town? And two, are there other sources of funding for them? And three, it feels like incomplete information. Something that struck me with the farmer's market, if we're moving on to that, was kind of the notes from Tammy about like, sometimes she wants to throw in the towel, right? But she gets so much positive feedback from people. And I just think if this went away, it would be a real disservice to the broader community. I mean, we are a food desert in the summer. And if they have greater plans to be more sustainable, and if they're having trouble sustaining it at the current funding, then I would be worried about it going away. It seems like it provides a pretty big service to the community.
And again, it looks like, well, future goals, acquiring larger grants, which is awesome, but there's no reference to maybe where those future grants will come from. But again, this is another one that I support almost all of these. These are really important. And yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be on the grant approval committee, actually. Can I?
It's okay. We're not approving or denying anything right now. We're giving tools for the entire board to make this decision on the 7th.
That's right. Well, and okay, so again, I'm going to reference the economist that lives in my household because we talked about this quite a bit, and thinking about kind of our role. There's a role for the town to step forward when the market has failed, or when there's externalities where these groups can't get funding elsewhere or can't be self-sustaining, right? Like the farmers market, they really may not be able to charge enough to actually pay a salary. And so they need some sort of seed money, additional support. I think the shuttle, the proposal is that it actually could generate revenue and be self-sustaining. And so it's like, do they really need the money from the town? And is it the role of the town to support this entrepreneurial venture? So I think there's just these different instances where there's either like a failure of the market to be able to support it, and that can be a way for the town to step in, or there can be externalities where they aren't able to kind of fund this because of the nature of our town.
And also, can we think about this as well, though, for the farmers market in particular? So we give them space to use in the summer to host the farmers market, and we do write that off, don't we, Gloria?
We write it off?
I mean, we don't write it off. I'm sorry, we don't charge them for the space, do we, in the summer?
No, but this year they were in Harmony Park, so it wasn't our park, basically. Because
I was gonna say, we could fund up to X amount and then say, well, we also sponsor you by giving you this free space to work out of, which is worth X amount of dollars.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how about that number?
Well, I think it's important to help try and keep them afloat. Like, Dana said, there aren't a ton of food options in the summer, and having them there is pretty important. That said, is the town responsible for it? I don't know, 5 or 6 for me.
Dana?
I'd say 7 or 8, but I could go with 6 or 7.
Jim?
I have a lot of opinions on this one. I have watched as we all have, I think, watched the farmers market from its inception down at the edge of town by the visitor center. And I've watched Kim Grant not only put her time and effort into it, but her toil herself into that role and throwing herself into that role. But year over year, while asking a certain dollar amount, she has put all of her time and effort to try to make the event, try to make the market better and bigger is what I'm trying to say. She moved it into town. It was successful over at Columbine. She came and wanted to move it over to Harmony, and it exploded. It was huge. It was big. But the point I'm making is that she has taken the market and has continued to build upon that original idea, that original concept. And I think at one point it was up to 9 booths, 10 booths. It was incredible. And having the music and the ambiance and the food in the morning. And this is one of those community events that's once a week, every Tuesday morning, that I absolutely love. I get my veggies from there. I should probably eat more.
We all should.
I should eat more, but the produce is fantastic. The personalities are terrific, and it's not just the food, and it's cultivating community in that space, and whether it's T-shirts to pottery, it just really creates a fun atmosphere. And this to me is a 7 or 8 for me, 100%. And having spoken to her and trying to better understand the finances behind it, and trying to understand the challenges of getting the produce and the transportation costs and all that, I get it. I get it.
So maybe that's how we do it. We, as we're going through this, I'm realizing I have this recommended amount. If we want to say our like community service number and then our recommended amount.
Yeah, I mean, so the request is 6,500. If maybe we do 5. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I'm using that as an example.
Yeah.
Well, and again, folks, it's kind of like you ask for a lot and you might not get it all, right? Folks know we may not be able to fund all this. The community knows we got double the amount of what we can fund. And so we are trying and demonstrating support. I really like what you're saying, Jim, and it's a lens for me is sort of like, what have you done with our dollars so far?
Exactly.
Yeah, and the fact that she's doubled the size, that goes a long way. Thanks for putting it in that perspective and that lens, because it has really grown. I used to have a booth down there when I had the catering company, when it was just a couple of us, and now it's that's a great way to look at it.
Great. Do we have a recommended amount?
6,500.
Put it in there. Yeah.
And I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Do we have a recommended amount for the KSJC community radio, or need more information?
Not this year. I just say not this year. That's my opinion.
For the shuttle or the PA system? I'm sorry.
This is the shuttle.
The shuttle? I'm sorry, I can't. I mean, because if we gave them a portion of the dollars, then it wouldn't come close to funding the entire project. And so then it's, we're just sort of,
Okay, and then the PA system?
3414. 1314, sorry.
Yeah, I'm open to that. I would like the conversation around the idea of, does it make sense for the town to have it or use it, like to leverage that money?
Okay. But you're open to
Yeah.
that suggestion.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for the Center for Snow and Avalanche Study, it seemed like we were
Yeah.
pretty, okay. The full amount. Okay, great. We're getting somewhere, guys.
Yes, there's numbers in there.
There's numbers.
Breaking the issue.
I'm sorry, I have to.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're just gonna kind of hide responsibility in
this,
town. There we go. So we can look at this a little bit better. Okay. Now we're going to Skajoring and their $10,000 ask, which 5,000, you can't really say no to the 5,000 because that's in
Yeah.
our contract.
So are we, I mean, we're partnered with them. So
Right.
can we suggest paying for it under the entire amount under the partnership, or?
Yep.
Because that
I
would be, I think,
Oh, yeah,
That
I should
would-
say partner, yes.
I don't know, that would be my, my suggestion. Because it does bring so much to town, if we could just put the full amount under the partnership and continue to partner with them, and then, I don't know, ask them to, since we partner with them, maybe to not apply for the grant dollars. I'm not sure if that's recommended, but
Mhm. I think I agree with you, Tyler. I think the case that this is a really important event for our shoulder season is very valid, and that, like oftentimes a town would put on something like this. I did still have the question of sort of like, what have they done in the past? Like, are there other grants that they've sought? Like, how successful has their fundraising been in the last year? Because I couldn't remember the exact dollars, but I remember listening to the meetings from last year before I was on the board. And there were a lot of questions for this group on like, how well are you fundraising elsewhere? Because it feels like the ask to the town keeps going up. And so that might be my concern, is just sort of is this a group that is highly dependent on the town's funding? I just would like some more information, because there was narrative around grant that they're seeking all kinds of grant funding, but I didn't actually see that in the financials. And if the cost of this event is around $50,000 and we're covering about a fifth of that, does that make sense?
well,
And is
I
it-
know that,
is it-
a lot of it is donation based, and I know last year was a tough year because it was, there was some issues with, I think, the size of the board and who was running it, et cetera. But I know that I ran into several of the board members the other morning, and their goal was to have the donations they needed before the end of this year, rather than like last year going, a couple of weeks before the event, still trying to make up those donation amounts. So I think that they're more driven to make sure that they have the matching monies necessary this year, several months before the event. Although I guess anybody could say that they're doing that, but it seems like they're on track this year to really come up with that other portion of the funds.
Since we are recommending to put this to a partner, all of it towards the partnership, did we want to put a service to the community here or just move this to partners?
I mean, I think if we're suggesting moving it to a partnership, then the service to the community has to be understood that it's a very high service to the community. I mean,
Okay.
if we're suggesting partnering, then it needs to be like 8, 9, or 10.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I wouldn't support partnering, I don't think.
Okay.
But I do. I do for ski touring. It's huge.
And then do we recommend the full amount, the 10,000 to the partnership?
So the request is 10 on top of the 5 that
Right.
is within the so it's a total of 15,000, correct?
Correct.
But if we moved it out of the grant dollars, then could we pay that money out of our budget rather than out of the grant budget, or no?
If we
Well,
do move it out of the grant budget, we could, I mean, that's 10 grand that we could put towards somebody else.
Yeah, and
Exactly what I was thinking.
Yep.
But
You can
even
do
in the
that.
partner budget, it's still all fungible. It's still one pot of money. We move it around and it means we're not spending it on something else. So,
Tina?
I don't know, going from 5 to 15 feels like a lot to me.
All right.
What if we go to 10?
So you want to split the request?
Well, we move
request
it to partner. We've already committed 5 to partner. We commit 10 total to partner. And they don't show up under the grant, under the nonprofit request. I don't know, am I thinking about this incorrectly?
No, you're not.
So we increase their budget, but instead of it tripling, it would double.
Yep.
What do you guys think?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a recommendation, and the full board may have, other ideas and some different input, and yeah.
And it's a nice compromise.
Okay.
And it gives them enough time to know fundraising goals or sponsorship goals or things like that.
Mhm. All right. San Juan Development Association.
To me, this feels really high because I just feel like we've seen demonstrated success. If we didn't see the amount of effort coming out of this office, I think I would feel differently. But the amount of grant funding and support really to town capacity that has come from here, to me, this feels high and kind of like a no-brainer. Personally.
I saw some head nods.
Yeah,
No,
I
I
agree.
agree.
This is a huge one. And I mean, I feel like every meeting I'm in, they're bringing something new to the table.
And are we considering moving this to a true partnership level?
Yes,
Okay, good.
that would be my recommendation, is that we start an MOU with them or some kind of a contract that commits our funds for a couple years.
Yeah.
If I can do that.
And then they don't have to go through this process. They can budget accordingly.
Yep. And I had them go through this process, so everything was laid out for you all. But now that you know where it is, now we could kind of transition into that partnership, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the funding amount would be we've already committed 5. Well, we haven't really committed that. It's just something I put in there because we did it last year. So the full 10,000.
Under partnership.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that one will take away from our bottom line as well as the scheduling.
Mhm. Again, it is all fun.
Yes. All right. And now the creative district.
This one to me, like they kept all the things they listed. It was like they put on a lot of things and they seem to keep growing it. Kind of like back to the farmer's market argument of like,
Right.
it starts with this little seed, but they just keep adding stuff and have demonstrated success of events throughout the year, especially kind of shoulder season, quieter times. The concert series we're already supporting, and I know what we give for the concert series is only about half of what it costs. And they're doing it kind of for the town. So I don't know. If we gave this in the past and they've continued to demonstrate success and we judge this as important, I guess I'm kind of wondering what makes sense now.
Question, is this an additional request?
Yes, on top of the 10,000 from the summer sounds, this is an additional 10,000.
So we're looking at 20 grand total.
Yes. How about we start with service to the community?
Come on, I already asked the hard question. No, look, they provide a great service. They're incredible fundraisers. I make my tithing every year.
Mhm.
This is a tough one.
I think too, seeing it next to also the powerhouse and the theater group, right? Like if you kind of bring these together, there's some of these groups that have kind of shared missions. And it would be neat to see them partnering. And I know they do partner, but it's hard for me to say we should spend 10,000 for the creative district and then 7,500 for speaker series at the powerhouse when these kind of have similar overlapping missions. And it seems like there could be some synergy there. I mean, we can't tell them that they have to work together and play nicely, but I don't know. Just thinking of overall what we're talking about investing in like the arts or creative endeavors. Yeah, I don't know.
Tyler, got some thoughts?
Well, I'm looking at this from the standpoint of if we give everything a 10, then we're not going to have the dollars.
So is this, T, I'm going to jump in really quick and I
Please.
apologize.
No, please.
Ski Joring is a partner, and I'm using this as an example. Ski Joring is a partner. They were, their line item is 5,000. They came back and they have requested additional funding of 10. We made a compromise to 5. I don't want to call it double dipping. I'm not using that word. I'm not putting that out there. See what I'm doing here with my hands? I'm just going to keep doing that. Is there potential wiggle room here? Because I do want to be able to save some funds for other groups.
That's
And
a good point, Jim. Well, maybe. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I'm just expounding on that thought. Of course, you want to give everyone the full amount requested, but we've already blown the original budget with this $99,000 total in requests. How do we whittle that down to something that's more manageable? And maybe the way to do that is to take a $10,000 request, maybe cut it in half, maybe cut it by a couple thousand. I don't know what that looks like, but I think we need to start looking at it that way in order to accommodate everybody.
Well, and let's say I like your idea of kind of like
some of these bigger items.
Yeah. Well, and thinking that there's kind of some overlap here again, because I think,
Correct.
okay, the Silverton Creative District has really demonstrated success. To me, I think of like the Summer Sounds, we're kind of contracting with them to put on an event that maybe in the past the town would have done. And, kind of like Ski Joring, we're contracting with them to put on this event that's a benefit to the town. But thinking about funding their general budget, I think what we see here is we see an entity like the Powerhouse coming forward, the film office coming forward, a theater group coming forward. We see groups emerging that also have very good, valiant missions that contribute not in the same way as the creative district, but in similar ways. And what we're trying to say is, well, maybe we want to split this up a little bit more with some of these other groups as well.
So, I mean, if we look at it from a basic percentage number, like, so we've got $99,000 in asks, and we've got 20 to give. I'm sorry, Gloria.
We have 40 budgeted.
40 budgeted. Sorry. So we could start working off of, 40%. We can, give roughly 40% to each project, except for the ones that we don't have enough information on.
Mhm. Well, and it is tricky because I think something like the creative district, they've demonstrated success. They've been a reliable partner in the past. The farmers market, again, we've seen how they've grown it, right? When we're kind of using this lens of what have you done with the dollars in the past and how have you leveraged them to get other funding, or how have you and your leadership expanded? I think that's worth thinking about.
Absolutely.
It's not the only lens, but when I think about like the clinic, well, we gave them $10,000 last year, but those loan funds have hardly even been dispersed or advertised. So that's kind of concerning to me. Or the film office, I can appreciate where Rebecca's coming from and really the time that she volunteers to bring films here. But we also did fund some last year. All right, I don't know. I'm having a hard time sorting out all of these. And we have funded the creative district at this level in the past, but now we have some new, more arts focused groups emerging that are also asking for these funds. So should we think about them as a group?
I think we pick a dollar amount and then we move on.
Whittle it down once we get to the bottom and figure out how much over we are. Yep.
Look, the request is 10 grand. Let's call it 7,500 for right now, and we can work it out later on.
Great.
And everybody, I'm going to apologize to you right now, but I've got 45 more minutes before I have another meeting.
Okay.
I'm very sorry, but it's not one that I can miss. It's an ambulance meeting.
We'll move quicker.
Oh no, this is important. It's very important. I figured I should let you all know.
I feel like for Powerhouse, I think that there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm there. I think they've demonstrated that they've been able to attract enough funding for paying rent. I don't feel comfortable funding the entire speaker series without kind of a history of success, but I would be very open to contributing some here. That's where I'm coming from.
What if we donated for the monthly, like, oh, well, their priority is number one. So what if we donate, or if we funded the seasonal speakers for 12, 21, 322, 620, and 923? That's their number one priority. So we could fund that at $3,500. And then they would have to figure out how they would get the other 1, 2, 3, 4 priorities funded themselves. Or we could fund the top 2 priorities. So the seasonal speakers and then the monthly winter series.
Yeah, I think 3,500 if we think about what we're giving to some of these other bigger partners that are really kind of big contributors. I don't know. Jim, what do you think of that amount?
A little lower than I would have thought, but I mean, I understand where everyone's coming from. Can we say 5 and then look at it again?
I'm trying to put it in the perspective of this is what they would need to pay for these items on their priority list. So what if we did, so we could do 45 or 55, and 45 would cover the top 2, 55 would cover the top 3.
Well, that's why I said 5,000. I don't know. It's just, and again, it's coming up. I mean, look, we already know that we've already blown this line item for our nonprofits. We already know this. So how are we trying to accommodate everybody?
Yeah, well, and 5,000 in relation to you know, what are some of our other big partners that we're giving 5,000 to? You know, like to me, if we're giving 5,000 to the Powerhouse to do a speaker series, then it's like, well, maybe ski touring should go up, or maybe Salem Development Association should go up. And so I don't know, I feel like I liked your idea, Tyler, of like, we'll fund your top 3. I think we also need to change the language in the nonprofit request form, because right now it says you have to be within the town limits, but I think there's perfectly good value in saying, you know, this is an entity that's right outside the town limits, but it's everybody in town, people use it from town. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Or maybe we suggest they ask the county for a portion because it is in the county as well. Or we say we fund half.
Well, and we also have the ability to say no.
Yeah.
That it doesn't fit within the purview. I know that none of us, and I can say this for almost the entire community, no one likes saying no. We all are there for one another.
Yeah.
And so saying no is difficult.
Well,
and I think there are compromises here that we can take advantage of.
Yeah. While we're thinking about saying no, I think that we should also remember that, you know, under the request, like under the definition, I'm just looking ahead a little bit, and you're going to have to forgive me, but, you know, MSI is asking for $20,000, but it clearly states that we'll only give up to $10,000. So maybe just sort of making sure that some of these parameters we stick to a little bit better. So the Powerhouse, is it a town obligation? I'm just trying to make, I guess I'm just trying to make it easier for us to say no and whittle some of these down, because we're not going to be able to do all of them.
So right now we're at $17,314
Okay.
of funding. Just to give you guys, there's a little running total on the bottom there I added.
Great.
Yeah.
Which is great. No, it's perfect.
I'm going to argue that, to me, I know that technically they're outside of the town, but it's such a town utilized facility. Like, to see what's been going on there, to talk to those folks. I would love to support some of that energy. And again, maybe we just see what's their success. How successful are they at recruiting speakers? And we say we can fund some of it this year, but not all of it. And let's see what you do this year with this money and how successful you are at recruiting it, executing it, getting attendees, and we'll revisit it next year.
Well, let's call it 5,000.
Okay. I think they'd be thrilled and shocked.
Of course.
Yeah.
And that would cover how many speakers?
It would cover 2 full speakers and half of a third. Or the top 2 priorities, sorry. So it would cover priority 1, 2, and part of 3.
But covering part of 3 was only like what, $500 more or something like that?
Yeah.
Should we just make it 5,500?
Yeah, and just say top 3 priorities.
Yeah.
I think that's a good cutoff.
Good compromise, guys. I love this group.
This is a good workshopping team.
Yes.
Okay. I will clean this thing up when we present it to the whole board.
Are you trying to make sense of all of our nuanced comments? It's not enviable.
All right, on to the clinic.
So can we look at this
Sorry.
as their priorities again and just say, well, you know, EHR startup and fees, maybe we don't.
So
because there is
I'm sorry.
because there is a free one, but then we could help fund their other priorities, or.
Yeah, I'm super uncomfortable with funding the EHR. I'm sorry. I can't justify it. I think that they have been recommended multiple options. And again, I think staffing wise, I really respect what Lois and the rest of the group are doing there. But I can't, their own consultant and other folks who are very knowledgeable have recommended multiple free options. So I just do not think it is wise of the town. The blood pressure monitor or some of the other stuff would be fine. But again, I'd love to hear from this board or have them come to present to us, because I have, as I've said, lots of concerns. I'm not sure it's the role of the town. They have, I want to see a sustainability plan, and I'd like to hear from their board, their ideas on transferring to a more financially sustainable thing. I can't justify as the town paying when they have very real, significant other sources of funding. So I'm really hung up on this. And I see no evidence that from the $10,000 we gave last year, that any loans were dispersed for emergency loans. So I have lots of questions.
Well, and so under their cost assessment for the electronic health records, they do note that they estimate that the transition moving from paper to electronic would be $2,500 just for staffing time and fees, which I do understand that, because it's going to take some people quite a while to move all those paper records to electronic.
Yeah.
So that makes a little bit more sense to me, rather than just paying for the electronic records fees. But yeah, this is a tough one. It's a super important. I mean, the brokerings have done incredible things, and I'd love to make sure that it keeps running. I just don't know. Are they going to have to stop doing business if we don't fund this request?
I think there are lots of, and maybe it's worth them coming and presenting to us. I mean, from the research I've done, the clinic is vulnerable in a couple of different ways. One, they have struggled to replace Lois's position. She's wanted to retire for about 2 years. I think that's potentially being solved. Two, Mercy Medical Center, their foundation is providing no guarantee that they will continue to fund Agnes's position after Agnes retires. And Agnes has not given a retirement timeframe, but we're not talking about 10 years from now. So that's a further sustainability challenge. And three, we're operating under Dr. Brokering's medical license as a pro bono license. And, with his health challenges, that could change as well. So there's significant sustainability challenges, I think, to the operations of the clinic. And I think it could be useful for maybe the board to present a plan or a sustainability plan or a future transition to an operating model. Last summer, a couple of us met with Access Health Systems in Durango. And again, I think I kind of mentioned this at the meeting before, and they were very open to the idea of exploring feasibility to operating a part-time clinic here. And that would include dental, behavioral, and primary care. But while the clinic is in operation, they want to be a good partner and they would not compete with them. And it wouldn't make sense financially probably for them. And they just would not want to be that kind of a partner. And so the clinic has sustainability challenges for the future that raise questions that I think have not quite been answered. And also, while they're in operation, there are not really a lot of other opportunities for the county to explore with health partners. So I just think there's a lot of challenges here, and I'm super passionate about primary care access in Silverton. And I have concerns about continuing to fund this organization in these ways. If they presented a plan that said, this is kind of our transition plan, I would be very open to that. But without a plan, if they were saying, hey, we're exploring options to transition to a different partner in town, this is our 5-year plan, we need an EHR in the meantime. I think there are so many things there that could be explored, but there's not any of that in place.
Tim or Tyler? I'm calling you out.
No, call me out, please do. They're all valid points. Like I said, you have your finger on the pulse. You know way more about this than any one of us. Last year, 10 grand was awarded. This year, the request was only 6448. Do we pick top 3 items? Top 4? I mean, the request has even gone down from last year. Do we fund the whole thing? This is, to me, this is Health and Human Services a type of deal. So it is, for me, it's a priority. However, I completely understand everything you just said, and I want to endeavor more and find out what's actually going on. How do we have a true, sustainable clinic/healthcare for our community? And what does that look like? What's the price tag with that?
What if we agreed to pay for like the $2,500 requested for the staffing and to do the transfer from this to EHR? And then it was up to them to either find a free service or come up with the other monies to fund the EHR.
I'd be up to that. I would kind of like to request that they present to us. Again, back to transparency and accountability, I'd love to hear a little bit of conversation around the disbursement of the $10,000 from last year or their plans for advertising that. When I did my community health assessment, most folks were like, where is that money? How do we access it? I had an emergency and there was no information on how I could do it. And is it being repaid? And so I think maybe if somebody from the board was able to present to us or to kind of talk about the future sustainability, that would ease some of my concerns or give us a little bit more leeway to provide additional funding here.
Okay. The only concern I have with that is if we wait for them to sort of, report to the board, if you give away all the other grant fundings in the meantime, then they're out of luck for this year, which I also don't want to put them in that position.
No, didn't we say that they could come?
Yeah, and so on the 7th, in front of the entire board, they would be able to kind of come and make a case for themselves.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
But right now, I would recommend like some kind of recommendation for the board to consider.
Tyler, your approach of like funding the staff transition time, but yeah, I would really encourage them to explore a potential free option instead of $1,800 a year.
Okay. And then the 2 HP tablets, they're going to want those in order to, that's going to be part of that EHR, which, I mean, you can get, so the software itself, like I said, you get for free, but they will need tablets to be in the room with the patient to put the stuff in, and that isn't free. So I can see why that request is asked for. And I imagine the desktop computer is part of that entire thing too. So they have a desktop computer that's up to date enough to run some of these electronic healthcare records programs.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that?
Mm-hmm.
$4,023 something to cover that.
Yeah, basically, what would it be? The whatever price minus the $1,800, the $6,400 minus the $1,800 for the EHR.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can go with that. I think my request to them, and Gloria, if you're able to communicate this, is what is your 5-year plan? I mean, Agnes is lovely. Her husband's retired. I imagine soon she'll want to join him. What is your 5-year plan? Because I don't want to invest in an organization that does not have very much long-term sustainability.
Can we change that number to 4648?
Yep.
That would be the amount to fund everything except for that $1,800 for the 4648, sorry. Except for the electronic healthcare record. So that would also get them the digital blood pressure cuffs. So it's everything except that 1,800.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keeps tingling.
Does that sound all right, Jim?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry, it's 4648.
Oh, 4648, sorry.
Yes,
Okay.
I do feel very comfortable with that.
All right, Single Track Society. Cruising right along.
Zipping away.
This is good.
I feel
Last
like
year we awarded,
oh, go ahead.
no, last year we awarded 10. The previous year, wasn't it more?
It's been
Yes.
5, 10, 10, 10 under the grant.
Uh-huh.
But
So we've given them 35,000.
and maybe I'm getting the Single Track confused with one of the other organizations, but I felt like there was a special request one year and we made a larger line item for them just for 1 year. And and again, I'm probably getting them confused with somebody else.
Well,
That's
and this
fine.
is just, this is the sort of grant request that I guess I'm more used to seeing, and that they have their entire plan is laid out in detail. Their funding sources are there in detail. Clearly, a lot of work has gone into this project, and the pretty comprehensive application. And I know that Clem has been in front of the board recently too. I don't know. I guess I'm curious to hear what you all think as well.
Yeah, this to me was one of those like leveraging, seeing that they are, accessing millions of dollars, and the time going into this again is volunteer time. That to me, this feels it's an asset for the community with a pretty small contribution. And I know that by us demonstrating this support, they are able to show like that they have support and access that funding more effectively. And so I don't have a problem with continuing with what we've done in the past.
I guess my only ask would be that the county stepped up and provided as much funding as we do.
Mm-hmm. Do we have that in there? Do you have that there, Tyler?
Yeah, it's in here. The county has supplied them with 34,500 up to date, and we've given them 35,000. So if we give them another 10, I would hope that the county then gives them another 10, and then we would be right there on track together, and it would be more of a joint.
Mm-hmm.
But is this another one where we can break it down by line item and see?
They've just asked for the Bakers Park construction.
It's just the
$10,000.
continuation.
Yeah.
And that's what I read. I just wasn't sure.
No, you're absolutely right.
Inside baseball.
Oh, wait, here, it looks like, oh yeah, I see where you're saying cash and in kind. Yep, I see what you see, Tyler, with county.
I would recommend giving them the full amount, but
yeah, and it looks like in their pending, they are anticipating 10,000 from San Juan County and 10,000 from us for the foreseeable future. Yeah, I don't know. I think this has been identified a priority. It's been approved.
I'm with T.
Yeah.
Okay.
I recommend the full amount.
Not 0. There we go.
oh boy. I'm just looking at that total in the bottom right.
Well, what if we take something like the senior center for 2,000? I don't know what you guys say, but I'm just gonna go off it. To me, it feels like that seems pretty easy. I know we don't have a proposal from Carrie, but it's not very much. It seems like a high need. Can we,
Yeah.
That's a huge
Absolutely.
need. Yeah. Yep.
so that we could chip off.
I was just gonna see if Carrie got hers in, yeah.
I would also say, and I hate to say this, but I think because MSI asked for, are they asking for $20,000 because they're grouped with CSAS? But you know, CSAS already asked for their own amount, and so the fact that they just, you know, overshot our mark by double.
Yeah,
In most grant applications, if you did that, I think that would be an automatic sort of. I'm sorry, but
It is automatic disqualification.
Mhm.
yeah,
which I hate to say, but you can't. I mean, you got to read the directions.
yeah.
And I understand a request is just request.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you fund the whole thing.
And again, like proportional to the other requests, like even if we said, oh, it's fine that you requested 20, but that's half of our budget. I mean, obviously, most people are not paying attention to our budget discussions and how much we have on this line item, but I'm just not comfortable allocating half of our budget to.
Also, one of them is a request for the funding of a master's student.
Yeah.
But I feel like right now, like, there's a lot of money out there, other monies out there for education, whether it's
Yeah.
scholarships or grants and things. And I'm not sure that the town is in a position to be funding somebody's master's degree right now.
Yeah,
Which again, I hate to say, I'd love to. If only we were just a little bit richer.
I do have a question, and it's mainly silly. Are you sure maybe they just didn't add an extra zero by accident?
No,
Because it was 20,000 last year, and now it's 20,000.
Yeah, I called him after I received the application because I said that our, our limit was 10,000. And he said that his logic was that it's a joint application with CSAS so that they each are asking for 10.
But we funded CSAS
But, yeah.
at
Right.
the top, so
Yeah.
they kind of shot themselves in the foot, I think.
and guys, if you read the memo, I think this is just an attempt, like they say that Southwest
Yes.
Basin Roundtable has a
Yeah.
range of funding. I just think that there are other funding sources for this. So maybe we want to allocate a small amount, but I think that there are other funding sources for them that I would encourage them to seek.
Jim?
My thoughts. Would we just provide the 2,500 like we did last year? And move on?
Mm-hmm.
I just,
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with everybody. I mean, 20 grand is an absolute wish list item. And if you get a little bit, you get a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm actually asking for $20,000 for the Tyler George vacation fund. So anybody, I'm going to set up a Venmo. I'm kidding. Of course, I'm kidding.
A
Adding a
cover
little
for a
levity.
skating rink. I'm just putting that in there just to cover. That's it. We could use it in the summer too. Yeah, I think giving them what they got last year sounds good.
You guys are doing great. You're almost there. We got 2 more left.
Tyler, do you have
can we-
3 minutes?
I do.
Okay.
I was going to say, can we just jump down to theater group and just approve the 1,000?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then that just knocks that off, and now we just have
Yeah.
Silverton. Okay.
I think the film office, I really appreciate what Rebecca's trying to build here. And I think for economic diversification, for supporting some of our businesses in the off season, there's a huge need there.
And they've done a lot of projects in the last several years. I mean,
Yeah, and she's not paying herself for that.
No, I agree with both of you.
But we've given her 5 last year and I know she didn't have quite the time and space to really leverage that. So I guess I have a few concerns about, again, just like what's the sustainability plan? How are you really going to make this work for the future to build this up into something that is sustainable, really works for you and that she can put the time and effort into it? I don't know.
What I do know, and I only know like this much. What what I do know is, having spoken with her, with also Bruce Conrad, who's another founding member of the resurrection of the Silverton Film Office. Having the resources to put into this, once they're making those connections, the town is benefiting. The business are benefiting, restaurants are benefiting, all the services. It's that trickle down effect.
Yeah.
It's being able to have the resources, the time, and being able to not only pay herself, but also pay someone to run a day-to-day or even a weekly operation.
Even part-time in an office.
Exactly. And I know that currently she's working with a cinematographer, and I think it's even pro bono. I think he's just doing it because he wants to see the community succeeding and because he's a friend. But they're in the process of making some short films, or not short films, some footage to put on the website for marketing materials and to really create that Silverton Film Office vision.
Well, and this is one of those things also that could we say we're going to give you X amount of dollars, but then we're also going to support you in other ways by allowing you to use town's facilities for free to film in, or we can afford you all of these other things that they're not cash, but hopefully that will help support your organization in other ways, as well as this is what we can give you in cash this year.
Well, and I think this is also one that we need to look at. Is it a yes or no or maybe with regards to partnering going forward? Other municipalities do have a line item for this industry.
Yeah.
And it's something we want to look into. This industry used to be huge in our area and our county.
Yep.
And then fizzled out for some time period. And it's really the resurrection and bringing back, it's the resurrection of this office and the bringing back of this industry to our community, to our area. And the way I look at this with Rebecca, with Bruce, with the board, and just with the office itself, is you're making an investment into the future.
Yeah.
You're making an investment because the return is going to be these folks, these productions are going to be utilizing these buildings. They're going to be staying at this hotel. They're going to be eating at this restaurant. They're going to be buying these T-shirts over here, and that's all revenue generating.
Yeah. And to me, it seems like it's seed money. The fact that we have someone in this community that has this expertise that really can grow it. Again, like it's a vote of confidence that she can grow this. And to me, like you said, Jim, it sort of comes all back around because not only does it provide revenue potentially during some of our slower seasons to our small businesses by having films here, it raises the profile of our community. Like it's kind of economic diversification in a variety of ways. I would love to see Rebecca in conversations with San Juan Development Association, with the chamber and with the town, kind of like, what does that robust partnership look like? So she's not kind of there on her own. And so we actually institutionalize it more. So it is more, again, more sustainable. But I agree. I think this is good. So are we talking about whole amount, somewhere in the middle? Do we want a presentation from her about kind of like, where would you go with this? Would this really be the seed that you need to kind of explode, or we just have the vote of confidence and check back in a year?
Or does she want to partner with the town as well? Like, would she benefit from being a partner moving forward? Which I think probably yes, but certainly we should still The question.
Mhm. Gloria, from other towns, do you have any input on kind of film offices or how this is typically structured or funded?
Yeah, it's not something that I'm super knowledgeable about.
Yeah.
I mean, I could look into it, but off the top of my head, I don't know.
Mhm.
Could we
Can we-
squeeze the 10 or possibly make it 75?
That's a good compromise to propose.
In the nonprofit request, or did you want to keep them or put them out to partners?
Well,
Well, if it's, yeah,
right now, I think the nonprofit request, and then it's something that we ask and see if we can pursue a partnership.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because these others that we did recommend funding, but they've been
Partners, yeah.
traditionally partners, so not formalized with the San Juan Development Association, but
Well, and I think to your point, like maybe we give the seed money, we kind of have a report in another year. I mean, again, if we're starting to have folks that are partners, back to I keep harping on transparency and accountability. If you're partnering with the town, I want to see what you're doing with the money
Yeah.
that I'm giving you. I want to see documented success, documented kind of results. I think we owe that
Well,
to the taxpayers.
And there should maybe, I think, yeah, maybe there should be a higher bar for becoming a partner rather than a grant recipient. And so, yeah, this is your 5-year plan. These are your goals. What did you accomplish in the last 5-year plan? And, what are you still working on, et cetera?
Could we put that as kind of a future trustee discussion as we think about partners in the future and we think about grantees in the future?
and that's something we'll be talking about on the 7th as I break down the partners and the nonprofits.
Yeah.
To kind of give you guys an idea, and then we can solidify future line items too.
Yeah, that's great. Because we don't want to surprise all these people and be like, hey, we expect your 5-year sustainability plan and we expect your business reporting, but setting expectations for the future, I think, is helpful.
And any partner that we have, I would like, a memorandum of understanding
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah.
Contracts are difficult as far as committing funds on the town end. We do run into Tabor issues. So I think MOUs is probably the best route to go.
Mhm.
Well, guys, we got a good running total number there. That.
Good job, team.
I think that's
Excellent.
that's a very manageable number.
Great.
Everybody, I'm really sorry. I'm going to have
Nope,
to duck
you're
out.
good.
I've got to change into my ambulance uniform and then run down to the station.
Thank you, Tyler.
but- No, thank you guys. This was super productive. I feel like we got a lot accomplished. And yeah, thank you as usual, Gloria.
Yeah, I think our
Good
colleagues
for us.
will appreciate it. We took a first stab.
I certainly hope so. All right, guys. You have a great day. We'll speak to you soon.
Bye, Tyler. Be safe.
All right, and we do have Danny here. Hey, Danny,
Yes, ma'am.
how's it going?
Oh, I thought the meeting was tonight. I had a surgery.
Oh,
I
gosh.
didn't know, like if you needed anything, I did my P for a PA system request. Julian said he submitted one too. We missed, he was out of town.
Oh.
Long and the short, do you need anything? Like I didn't have the budget thing, you know what I mean? But I think in his, he said there is one if you needed it.
Okay.
So I didn't know. I just wanted to know how this works. So I just wanted to say that if you needed me, could you email or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is today or is that down the road?
No, so we're just advising, and then we'll be reviewing it with the whole board on November 7th. So I'll email you on like any, and for you, I don't think we had any questions there. I have one question that I'll email you in there and then
Okay,
we can move forward. Yeah.
all right. I came over because it
Oh, no.
was public. I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, no, that's
No
fun.
public. Thank
Oh, wait, Jim, did you have a comment?
Well, I have I guess it's more of a procedural question. There's 2 separate requests from the same entity. Is that
Right.
now procedural question? How does that work?
They're both below, like if we add them together, they're both under the 10,000. They just had a miscommunication with each other. So that's why they submitted 2 different ones.
That's good.
Yeah.
Annie, you can totally go heal. I feel so bad that you did that surgery.
Thanks for
Yeah,
coming.
Julian was out of town.
Mhm.
So yesterday at the house, he's like, I said, oh, I got the grant in. He's like, I did one too. I'm like, oh boy, I wonder how that's why I came over. I wanted to make sure I didn't cancel myself out or something.
Oh, no, you're totally fine.
Okay. Get out of y'all's hair.
Thank you.
Sorry about the dual thing and just, I guess if you could let them stand on their own or whatever, I don't know, and you work as a,
Considered them.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Bye.
And
I can't believe we got through that with actual numbers. Way to
we
go.
did. So I think we just have one more agenda item, and that is our audit. I have the auditor presenting the audit to you all on the 24th. So I just kind of wanted to give the audit to you all to review prior. So I hope that was clear in the agenda so that we wouldn't have to go through it line by line right now. And that it's just, you guys just get a little extra time so you can ask some really good questions.
Can I ask you an overarching question of like, was there anything that really stood out to you two? Or anything that was particularly surprising?
No, I'm still trying to figure out one of the numbers that they did. So I'm $1,000 off in our revenues for our actuals versus the audited actuals. And I say that in our expenditures. So I'm saying that we spent $1,000 more than they said we spent. So just trying to hash out those little details because they don't always give me the same exact line item that I submit to them. So I have to kind of extrapolate what they're considering they lumped into general operations or something like that. So, but as far as we just learned a lot as far as procedure goes and how to organize things for future auditors. He said there was an issue that he noticed in our audit from previous years that he fixed this year, and he'll go over it with you all at the meeting. But it was pretty common with that auditor with other communities. So I don't think it was the fault of Silverton on that one.
Yeah, so there was no big red flags that stood out to you guys?
No, he would have definitely flagged those for me. But it was just a very arduous process to go through, not having the systems in place and switching auditors when we had so much transition in 2021.
Yeah. You survived.
We survived, and
Congratulations.
we've got a lot of standard operating procedures from here on out. Yep. But no, overall, no huge surprises, which is good. And that's all we got. And it's time to eat.
It is time to eat.
All right, Jim, are you good?
I'm having a banana.
Great.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, thank you all for your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Have a good day.
Okay. All right, now I gotta save that. All right,